Oh, yes.
Please. Good.
She's got me in her pocket.
How about tornado? So it didn't hit nothing near you then? Wow. They did say one touchdown. I can't remember where they said it, but they said they confirmed it. Finally went on that quick. Holy crap.
They wouldn't get some.
Here's some more chairs.
Do we want to move the bench?
We could also just flip the bench back.
Yeah, that's what I was
Take that from this room. Well, just take the agendas and stuff off it, and then it just flips back into a seat.
Ventilation out.
Yeah.
Oh,
I haven't had No, we made sure that when we were done, we got the tariffs laminated. Which is like a fun we went to the UPS stores and well, see, I had both signatures. I didn't know there was gonna be a third.
They're saying not to get,
So we got the
yeah,
two.
they're saying not, you don't have to get to the third. I'm not.
You can't,
I don't get two.
even if you wanted it.
No. I'll just be happy just with the two.
I had no side effects.
I'm still stubborn. What happened? I'm funny.
When they bring you in, you got your appointment, and they charge you 15 people every 15
I mean, that would be nice.
Yeah, that is one thing.
He's got the correct time right there.
Call this meeting to order.
All right. Ready? Newcastle.
Here.
Rodebeck.
Here.
Nichols.
Here.
Geisler. Here. John. Here. Redline.
Here.
Copeland.
Here. If you'll please stand and have a moment of silence for our military folks and led with the pledge allegiance by Mr. Newcastle.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And if any of you that have a phone, please silence it.
I can't on my,
Unless you're on an emergency.
that's me. It goes off.
All right. Still have folks coming in.
And these wood here, they. You got one.
There's two, there's 3 or 4 people. First item on the agenda is approve the minutes of August 2nd, 2021.
Motion to approve.
A second?
There's a chair right here.
Okay.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed by aye. Motion carried to approve the minutes of August 2nd. Treasurer's report.
Motion to accept.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the treasurer's report? No discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed by aye. Motion carried to approve the treasurer's report. All right, now I skipped over one thing, but not purposely. Public comment this evening. Is there any public comment that is here that does not apply to the agenda?
There's nobody on Zoom.
I
Yes.
got a hand.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of City Council. I'm Lee Hendrickson. I reside at 408 Shiawassee Street here in Langsford. My topic is the ongoing deterioration of Shiawassee Street. It's only gotten worse over the course of the summer. It is not a self-healing street. We've had actually a lot of construction, traffic on the street. Blueberry. And it is absolutely impossible to understand the strategy on paving streets within the city. Deerwood got paved. That's essentially a private street coast. 5 homes. Toyota Street. And it's not a through street. Shiawassee Street, this is through the street. And last time I was here, 2 months ago, I've spoken to Paula also. She's indicated that the city's in the process of developing a long-term capital. And I don't know what the timing is on that, but I think the long-term part of it is probably having the plan. There is a long-term capital plan that was done in 2018. And it includes a statement relative to streets, no specific projects at this time. Which, again, it's the Shiawassee Street is a through street. Gets a lot of traffic. And I'll just relate to you a little story. Somebody that drove down the street 10 days ago. And it was a gentleman in a pickup truck. And I was out working in yard, and he stopped in front of my home. And he said he hoped he didn't mind he was going so slowly up the street and then going down the street faster a couple of times because he was test driving his pickup truck. He was thinking about buying. And he said he was looking for the roughest street in the city of Lansing. And I said, you found it. It's right there. And right now the street is unsafe for bicyclists, people walking with strollers. It's ridiculous. And it's very difficult to reconcile anyone's mind priority order in which city streets have been paved this year. This is negligence, and it really needs to be seen to. It's the city's responsibility, and it is the responsibility of city council to provide oversight and to make sure that the resources and timetable was put in place to see to the proper maintenance of this street. But right now, the street's an embarrassment to this town. It really is. And it's only going to get worse over the course of the summer. The street is deteriorated to the point you can't count all potholes. So it needs to be addressed. And I understand we're going into fall, so it's not going to be this. But you need a plan. You need to commit the resources and to get. Again, I appreciate the opportunity to speak before you tonight. I appreciate your service.
Thank you. That's been noted. Anyone else? Okay. We'll move on to item number 3, marijuana license. Mr. Pete. I'd like to, you have a letter presented here. Would you like to cover a little bit of highlights?
The issue at hand.
Yes.
So the particular site was previously considered for special use permit and going through the licensing process. Apparently, that proprietor is no longer interested, and there's a new purchaser of property that is interested in pursuing a special use permit as well as going through the licensing process. It's my understanding that it's been brought up that the city of Laingsburg had once extended the licensing process previously, and therefore, in order for this next party to go through, that should be extended as well. If you look at the original ordinance, I believe you also have an attorney that has commented on behalf of the other owner and operator of a licensed marijuana facility. So what that essentially says, and in case that individual is here, I'll let them clearly speak about that. But what it says is that it definitely should be extended. When this original ordinance was adopted, that ordinance allowed for 2 licenses for provisioning centers to be put in. That to me during that time was for the city of Laingsburg to provide competition or 2 uses to have competition. To provide for competition means that you limit the attempt at a monopoly in order to secure the best position. The extension was due to the previous party involved, and again, the timeline was not in the original ordinance. It was put in place because the city was concerned at that time that we were going to get overran with applications. It would give the ability of the city council, if all these folks went through the special use permit process, to pick the cream of the crop, to pick those facilities, those applicants that would best represent the city. So as we went through that process, this extension came up. The other previous applicant asked for that extension to be granted. They also asked for that extension to be granted, potentially because of financing issues, making sure that their investor is secure, knowing that they can move through the process. Now, this is all years back, and if you or not few years back, last year, if you recall, when the city first started dealing with marijuana back in the medical, we thought we were going to be overwhelmed then. Huge knee-jerk reaction and doing ordinance and stuff. And I think that's where we're at now. As far as if this should be extended or not, it's not my opinion that necessarily there needs to be a resolution to extend. I know that the other party's attorney has said that. I'm not an attorney. I do not represent you in that way. So it's no legal opinion. If you feel that you need to extend, I would recommend that you extend, because not extending goes against the spirit of the original ordinance, which says you allow 2 licenses. And I think that in the city of Laingsburg, we have a number of uses. We have 2 bars. We may potentially have 2 retail establishments out next to another retail establishment that may be in competition. But I've never seen the city of Langsberg attempt to limit that type of growth. You said two. I think you should adhere to that. I would consider some of the efforts here to try to slow the pending competition. That's my 2 cents worth.
Council, what we have at hand is, it's my understanding is there's actually someone that has applied for a license or turned in paperwork. And as you know, the time period, as Pete has talked, is actually elapsed. We started out with 4 establishments and worked very hard to get down to 2. And also cut down a lot of stuff by process of elimination, such as processing and so forth, and growing inside. And this statement was made, back when we went through a lot of this in February, is the second business would provide consumers the opportunity to have a choice to where to shop. All businesses have a right to come to this city, and as long as they meet our ordinances and obligations, we have to allow them. You're not gonna stop a grocery store or somebody that buys a bar from opening up. So the question is what does council want to do here?
I would like to make a motion to suspend the rules and allow for more public comment.
That's second.
And public comment is open to be able to slow the discussion. And is there any discussion on that before we vote for the motion? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed by aye. Okay. So now we're an opportunity for public to speak more, state what they've got. Mr. Brown?
Thanks, Mayor Culpepper. I just want to address the council. I'm the attorney that wrote the letter, and I do appreciate Mr. Preston's analysis of it, but I think there needs to be a couple of corrections. First, before I get to those, I want to tell you that Mr. Litsky hired me to write a legal opinion for you. I've known John for a long time. I don't hide that. I've known Rhonda for a long time. I'm sure that all of you know that. Roy went to school with my son, John. So I've known their family for a number of years, but I think the reason that John asked me to do this is because he knew not only as a friend, but as a lawyer, I would give him a straightforward opinion. And that's what I've given to the council in my letter that I wrote, dated last Friday. It's not quite what Mr. Preston is indicating to you in terms of the conclusion. The conclusion is basically that the variance has not, resolution does not allow an extension of the ordinance passed on 12/31 of 20. The resolution that was passed by City Council extended the time period by 6 months. That 6-month time period closed for whatever reason, whether the second applicant was in the process of getting the special use permit, whether the second applicant was in the process of getting a variance or going to the planning commission to see what could be done. None of that matters now because the period of time has closed. And what Mr. Preston, I think, is saying is if the council passes another resolution extending that time period, that would in effect allow this applicant to come back and apply. That's not the conclusion of my response. My response in my letter to you is that when City Council adopted the resolution of the ordinance, it extended it to December 31st of 2020. That closed the permit period. And in order for a new permit to now be issued or entertained by the council, there has to be either another ordinance to open it back up for public comment, or the City Council can say the time period is closed. We're not going to accept any further permits. Now, I can understand the city council wanting to bring in and Paula wanting to bring in new businesses for the city. But this is not the way it should be done because because the city council extends a courtesy to one person that wants a permit now outside of the time period. So that, to me, that doesn't look good, first of all, from a political standpoint. And secondly, legally, I'm not sure that can be done without city council taking some affirmative steps to open up the time period. How do you open up the time period? I don't think it's by a resolution, to undo a resolution that you've already had. Mr. Preston talked about the spirit. The spirit of the ordinance was, it didn't have a time limit. I agree with Mr. Preston. The ordinance didn't have a time limit. Once the city put a time limit on it with the resolution, that stopped the permit period. That closed the permit period. You can't open it back up now for one person. The resolution killed the time period. It stopped the time period, and there was a reason for that. The reason for that is because then you don't have 20 other people coming in after the December 31st, 2020 deadline. What's to say another person wants to come in and do a permit now, or a third person wants to come in and do a permit? There was four permits, not 2 permits. 4 permits actually granted in the beginning, 2 for medical marijuana and 2 for recreational marijuana. So there were actually 4 permits that were allowed, not just 2. So are you going to open it up to 3 more, not just 1 more? So my conclusion and my request, and again, I think what I'm asking you to do is to follow what you have already done in terms of your resolution, not open it back up. I don't think you have to do anything. That's my opinion. You've already come up with a deadline. The deadline was not satisfied by the permit person, whoever that individual was, and I don't even know if it's the same person that has interest in wanting to do this permit. I don't think that matters. The time period is closed. I don't think you can undo the time period now for one individual because they didn't meet their special use permit or they didn't get their financing. I mean, that's not the reason why there was a deadline placed on the. That was the reason for the deadline, the initial 6-month extension. So I don't think city council should again extend it for one individual. I don't think legally you can. I think it's very questionable to do that. And that's what I put in my memorandum too. So thank you for allowing me to, if you have any questions about it, it's a 3-page memo that I provided to council, and I think you have it all in your package. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have about it.
Any questions? Okay,
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
anyone else? Yes.
Hi, Mike. Yes, I'd like to speak. My name is Lisa Jelinek. We have 2 nonprofits downtown, the Connection and the Clothesline on 120 and 124 East Grand River. And Mike, would like to speak to you and the Laingsburg City Council. There was a petition going around downtown. I don't know if you were aware of this or not, and I'm going to read what was on the petition and let you know there were 27 businesses that are against another marijuana establishment. But the wording is as follows. We, the undersigned, are ready to express our position that Laingsburg only permit 1 marijuana store. We also support the Planning Commission's recommendation from its August 16th, 2021 meeting that the City Council hold a public hearing on this issue prior to the reopening any application period for a new license. We believe that the application period that was open for a full 12 months last year was a fair process that anyone could apply. Now we have 1 store open, and we believe that a second store would negatively change the character of our community. Many communities, including Bath Township, only permit 1 store. Just as the council did when it eliminated the micro business licenses, we believe the council should amend the ordinance to allow 1 store. Thank you for your consideration. And I've got the petitions, excuse me, Jose, here for you to look at. Like I said, I'm not going to name the businesses, but there are 27 businesses that are representative all the way downtown from the clothesline to Central Pharmacy to Leonard Hardware to Tammy's Bakery to Langsburg Eye Care. Langsberg Dental, Langsberg Animal Hospital, Twilligers, PDP, Mike Wood of Mike's and Sons, Carolyn Morris, Bonnie Lucille Hair Studio, Langsberg Library, K13 Physical Therapy, Corner Cuts, Deary Den, Subway, Avon Grace, Pine Hills, Peacock Road Tree Farm, Alltech Auto Repair, Ridgedale Rugrats Child Care, Sage Market, Family Market, Hometown Child Care, Mr. Sandless and the Roof Replacers. 27 businesses are opposed to this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lisa. Is there anyone else in the audience that has anything to say?
Thank you. My name is Josh Covert. I'm an attorney. I work out of Lansing. I work with the Michigan Cannabis Lawyers. I represent the client who is interested in the Klotz building and has turned in an application to obtain one of the licenses we're here to talk about tonight. There's a few things that I'd like to talk about. One of them is the resolutions that created these deadlines in the first place. I think there's certainly a question whether or not those resolutions were even proper without amending the ordinance in the first place. And I'll give you an example as to why that's important. For instance, my client puts substantial resources into this project. And he looks at the ordinance and sees that the ordinance allows two, finds out that there's only one that's been issued. Without knowing about that resolution, he continues forward. We're here with the resolution today. But that resolution, again, there's a difference between an ordinance and a resolution, and I'm sure you all know what that difference is. But there are some things that can't be accomplished by resolution. And I believe that time, that application period would be one of those things. Resolutions are limited to a temporary type nature with ministerial duties, having to do with how the city itself governs, not necessarily with the broader implications of who gets these licenses. So I don't know that you even need to do anything, because I don't know that those resolutions really impact the ordinance because of the nature in which they were put together, essentially. I think it would have been proper to amend the ordinance, allow for timeframes, or allow for the authority to create a resolution for timeframes. So I think there's certainly some question about the validity of these resolutions to begin with. Secondly, my client has turned in an application. He has paid the application. So I certainly think the city could move forward and issue this license under the existing ordinance, because those resolutions, again, are for a temporary type nature for ministerial duties. It would create a benefit to the community. Last year, communities that had retail establishments received about $28,000 for each license. So last year, by not having one, the city essentially lost out on $28,000. So my client, ready to go, has put resources into the project, and now he's being told that there's this resolution that may prevent the city from considering his application. I think there's certainly things that could be litigated. We'd rather not go that route. We'd rather open up a business than continue forward. But that's kind of what we're left with potentially, is if this application isn't actually considered by the city. And so with that being said, again, the spirit was two was there for a reason. It was there to provide for competition, and it's what benefits the citizens of Lanesburg as consumers. And I don't think there's anything that really changes that sentiment. So I would ask the city that if they do want to extend or move forward, and they don't want to look at our applications we've already submitted, certainly open up that window again by resolution or by amendment. And then I think everything would work out as well. But that's who I'm here representing. If you have any questions, certainly let me know. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I've got a question on your client, and you, I don't know if you could answer this or not. I'm not looking for a number. I'm more looking for a statement of progress. Is his or her investment at this time, is it exploratory, or are they under contract for a building? Or I know they paid the fee, and that was $5,000, correct, to submit the application?
They just paid the site plans,
Site plan review and application.
As far as how the property purchase, I'm not a part of that transaction. I represent them as far as the cannabis licensing goes, so I can't really speak to that. My client is here though, and he may choose to speak about that during public comment.
Thank you.
At least one of my clients.
Do you have a card, or can I get your name?
Joshua Covert. I work with the Michigan Cannabis Lawyers in Lansing.
I am the client, and I'd be happy to speak. My partner and I, when we were looking for an opportunity to open up a business like this, we looked at Lanesburg specifically because it's an excellent location. It deserves, but not speaking at all about the current dispensary. I think it's a very nice establishment, but it does deserve top-notch meds. It deserves competition, as Mr. Colbert spoke about. As far as our investment, whether it's exploratory or not, it's really exploratory. We have a person we moved forward based on the advice of the consultant firm the city hired. We have spent lots of money. I don't have a number. I don't think it really matters, but obviously paired attorney. We put together a site plan that costs a lot of money. We spent the $750. We've also spent the state licensing application fees, which is $6,000 just to submit the paperwork. So we do have a great deal invested, and we did act on the ordinances that were published. There was no resolution published, okay, stating anything about a deadline. The initial ordinance only speaks of allowing 2 dispensaries. And the advice that I got, again, from John Michael Daly, I think was his name, from the consulting firm that you guys hired, is that there was in fact an opening for a license. That's the company that you guys hired to represent. With that being said, I think that we'd be at a great disservice if you guys left the door.
I have a question for you. Have you purchased the building then that you're gonna,
We have not, but we're under contract first.
I see for sale signs up, so it kind of threw me for a loop, I guess, when I seen that here
It's
a while ago.
105 East Green River, it's lots of.
Yep, yeah, because I seen the for sale signs up and didn't see the sold sign, so I was just curious on that part of it.
That space, it's a beautiful part of your downtown as well. It needs something. We're gonna put something together, if allowed, that, this town will be proud of. It's not gonna be a downtown Detroit dispensary pot shop. It's gonna be a nice provisioning center. We're very professional. We already have a CBD store in Lansing. It's very successful, and it's because we treat our people right. We're not all about profit. We care about our customers. And we feel like this is an underserved market, not just in Lanesburg, but the money that it can bring potentially from the surrounding towns of Bath and Witt, St. John's. And we have a processing center as well, so we're able to bring the prices of the product down considerably compared to what any other dispensary in the area is offering. A lot of advantages to bring us in. The money, $29,000 a year. Not all that, but the out-of-town shoppers are going to come. We'll bring out-of-town shoppers.
Thank you. Mr. Liskey.
Thank you, council. John Liskey, owner of the building at 120 West Grand River. One quick thing.
Chad visits.
Mr. Brzezinski, my understanding from the realtor, Platts building, is that a contingent offer has been made, but it's contingent upon approval by the city council. And so I'm not, is that incorrect? Or?
I don't know that there's an out, to be honest with you. We buy it in my.
That's what the realtors advise. So I wanted to clarify that. But before I launch into anything else, I want to thank you guys. You've been nothing but the greatest from day one to allow us to go down this path of a dream of investing in this town, family business. We're the only ones over that whole 12-month period that anybody could apply. We're the only ones that's followed through. We've made the investment. We've done the hard work. We're continuing to do it hard work. We've now been open for four months. And I can tell you that this town cannot support 2 businesses. That's based on our experience. And if you look at Bath, Bath has 1 license. Owasso, which is 10 times bigger than us, has 2 licenses.
You got 5 or 6.
Well, they have 2 existing stores.
We got 5 or 6. So, not to contradict you, but they're all over the place in Boston. I can name about half of them. One on Washington Square, one on M21, one going outside of town. They're all over, they're opening them up fast. Not that that changes what you're saying. I'm
No,
sorry
no,
to make
because
you walk.
the real point is that in terms of what Mr. Preston said, we are in a very competitive environment. The fact that we're the only ones in this town, we're competing for customers from Owasso and from East Lansing and Lansing. So that's neither here nor there. But what I really want to do is go back to something Paula said when she addressed the DDA back in February. And I've heard this from others, that the initial thought process when you were considering these applications was to go for 2, but you hoped for 1. And you got 1. And we have done everything we can to make that building look good. We're engaged in the community. We've sponsored several concerts. And we're just trying our hardest to be good citizens and a good business. And according to our council, the resolution set a deadline of December 31. And we feel that you should honor that. And so we're also available to answer any questions.
Anyone, council?
Can I make a motion?
You can if you'd like.
Okay. I want to thank everybody for coming. This is amazing to see somebody trying to engage and do something for the town. So, and thank you for coming as well. For me, it isn't about the money. That I am more worried about eliminating businesses that we have. So for me, yes, it would bring money into Langsburg, but and that, that is important, but for me, it's what do the people really want? So I do think this idea of seeing what the people want is a good idea. To take our time to make this decision, because I do think it changes a little bit of the characteristics of our town. We are a small town. To have 2 marijuana licenses, I do think it is a statement in essence. So I think taking the time as council to see really what people are thinking, I think is worth our time. There's been said something about, well, we don't want to see vacant buildings here in Pittsburgh, and that is true. But I also don't want to alienate the people that we have for them to leave where they are. And I want to make sure that we are, trying to make sure that the businesses that we have are supporting them as well. So competition, this monopoly idea, to me, these places are popping up everywhere. As far as competition, he's got competition all over. It's not sitting right next to him, but there's competition all over the place. So to set somebody next to him, I mean, it is a decision to be made, but to say that it's the same as having 2 grocery stores or 2 bars, I don't see this the same. This business that we're talking to me is not the same as having 2 bars. So I guess that's really all that I wanted to say. And I do think it's something that we really do as a council need to consider, though. And if the public wants it, then it's.
I would like to say that I 100% agree with Gail. It's not for the money. And I understand the ordinances that are already set in place. That was before I was on council. And I didn't even hear about it before I was on council, which is neither here nor there. But now that I'm here and I'm part of everything and seeing the community, like I have to be a voice for them. And so that's just kind of where I stand right now on this. Is I understand what's in place, and I have looked at this way and I've looked at that way, and obviously I want everybody to be happy. That's me. But reality, I'm here for Langsburg. I'm not, I have to be that person. So, yeah.
Okay, so little history lesson. We started out with 4 and we approved 4. We went from 4 with 2 grow operations to just 2 provision. There, in my opinion, and I think in the opinion of council, were valid reasons to reduce the number from 4 to 2. Reason being, we couldn't get to our satisfaction an answer from the people that were thinking about growing, that they could control the odor in a compacted business district, which is what we had. And, you know, I don't even know if the technology existed in order to filter out what council remembers as their number 1 concern, correct? Correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought that the number 1 concern in going from 4 to 2 was we would not allow the 2 that were left over to be grow operations. They were strictly going to be providers, retail.
The processing had a lot of issues itself with dangers in processing.
Yeah, and how do you process? Well, you know, there might be butane or propane on the premises and all the permitting that would have to go through. And we thought that, you know, it may in fact pose a public nuisance if we had a grow operation. And that was my recollection. And correct me if I'm wrong.
Processing was the danger of the whole downtown.
The other thing that we were looking at is the 2 different marijuana businesses that were going to be in town. One was a bakery serving edibles. The other one was medical marijuana and provisioning. Yeah, 2 totally different types of businesses.
Right.
And now we're back to possibly 2 provisioning. So.
Okay, but
I have a question. I have a question.
council approved 2 provision, correct?
Correct, yes.
Yes.
You said we went from 4 to 2. I don't remember you being in favor of that. Am I not right?
No, I was in favor of not having the public nuisance part, the smell, or having the safeguards in place for processing. Would I like to have 4 or 5 or 7 or 10? Absolutely, I would. And it's got nothing to do with competition. It has everything to do with economic expansion. In fact, everybody's talking about competition. And is it a good thing or a bad thing? Obviously, competition is a good thing. That's why we're capitalists. However, with the 2 provisioning centers, the 2 provisioning licenses that we have now, we actually, through the resolution process, closed it, opened it, closed it. Now we're thinking about opening it again. And then what? Does that somehow smack of advantage for someone or not? I would think that it does. We have a planning commission for a reason. The planning commission's recommendation was that we hold a public hearing. And what would that public hearing be about? I don't think it should be whether to open the time for an extended period of time and then close it again and then be maybe under liability. I say that the public hearing is about rescinding the resolution altogether, placing no time limits on the remaining license. And I don't think there should have been time limits on it in the first place, or we wouldn't be in this mess. And we can open that public hearing and have the public, and we'll get more chairs, come on in and express their opinion to council. And then per planning committee's, the commission's recommendation, we hold a public hearing to see if we rescind the resolution with no time limits, or we adopt status quo and it's closed and that's it. As resolution allows for right now.
The State of Michigan allows so many liquor licenses per capita. And if we're limiting to 2 licenses, we shouldn't have a time limit on when somebody can apply for the 2 licenses. We have 2 licenses available, they should be open.
Well, okay, and council can express their opinion if they would like. I, however, am proposing that we take planning commission's recommendation to hold a public hearing. And the subject of the public hearing is not whether we open or close, it's that we get rid of the time limits altogether until the allotted amount of licenses are filled.
And with that, we might wanna-
The recommendation from the planning committee was just to inform the city, like, we would recommend a public hearing if we needed to open it up, if we needed to. It wasn't for whether it's rescinded or not. It was to.
It might be nice to see what our lawyers have to say also.
And I
to make
agree,
sure that
yeah.
we do it correctly and.
But I just wanted to make that clear that I was the one who made the motion.
Okay. So clarify that motion again, because I don't think that's reflected in the minutes. Okay.
If I didn't get it right, then we'll have to correct it.
That's right. I highlighted that.
Good.
Yeah, it says motion made by Judd, seconded by Friedenberg. If the marijuana licensing requires a motion or resolution to reopen the application period, the planning commission recommends that city council hold a public hearing regarding reopening of the application period to accept applications for the 1 remaining retail marijuana license that is available. Okay, so I would make a motion that we take planning committee's recommendation and open a public hearing to see if we will reopen the period of the resolution to reopen the application period.
I'll second that
Per
motion.
planning committee's recommendation.
I'll second that. That makes sense.
We have a motion and a second discussion.
What about changing the venue to a larger area so that we can accommodate the public?
Oh, I'm sure we'll have to.
Have it at the fire hall, like we did the wall.
Yeah, motion on the table.
So,
Well, we're in a discussion of the motion, right?
Mayor, can I ask a question?
yes.
Based on what she just read of the minutes from a previous meeting, wasn't your motion to open a public hearing about?
It was a recommendation from the plan. I was on the planning committee and I made a motion that we recommend to the council.
And
that a
somebody
public-
seconded it,
Yeah,
and isn't that why we're here?
yeah. And
Based
so
on
now
that?
we're here to,
So then it sounds like you want to hold a different meeting another time to do what we're
Correct.
doing now?
Well,
Well,
there's a legal, if you're having a public hearing, then you have to publicly put notice in the
You have to post
newspaper.
it.
this
It's
is
according to
technically
our-
just my recommendation. It's now in front of council saying,
So we
hey,
should
this is
hold
what we
our
recommend.
opinion
and-
until it's been publicly.
No, I mean, you're here to give your opinion now if you want to, but basically, if we hold a public hearing, there's a legal way to do it according to our charter. And that we have to,
It
and
limits.
I can't just call a public hearing if, some citizen says, hey, can you have a public hearing? I can't just put it that way. The council
Yeah,
has to let me know that they would like to hold. a
it
public
limits
hearing.
council's liability if we follow the rules and say, okay, we have an issue here and we want the public's input and we want to formally address that through a public hearing. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but that was what the recommendation from planning committee was
And that was
for.
me as a planning commission on the committee.
I mean, technically, right now, you're
They can't
taking
ask.
public.
So I
They
should wait to
can't
get
do
back.
it. Only the council can request it.
Okay,
But we
So she
suggested
She
it.
suggested it to us and then we have to decide.
okay.
So technically, right now, they've opened up, they're taking public comment, but that's different than a public hearing.
Yeah.
Sorry, does everybody understand? That makes, okay.
Yeah,
So it's a
because,
different, it would be a different night. Wendy,
Okay.
it
yeah,
would definitely, I mean, but you can still give your comment tonight.
and yeah, and let me tell you the difference between that. Okay, when I suspended the rules and allowed for public comment, if those rules would not have been suspended, public could not have commented unless you are addressed by council. However, in a public hearing, we'll set a time and you can get up, say anything you want to, whenever you want to. But by suspending the rules, I have allowed some public comment, but that is not an official public hearing. So we would like to go ahead, per planning commission's, I would like to go ahead, per planning commission's recommendation, and schedule a public hearing on the matter in question.
That's what I seconded.
And he seconded it.
And that's where we're at. That's just for a little bit of explanation. We got lawyers in the room. We want to go by the rules. Okay.
Are you ready?
I am ready as far as I know. Discussion.
So the motion is, do we want?
But we're gonna have-
So the motion right now, or the way I understand it, is to take the recommendation of the planning commission and hold a public hearing to hear public comment on whether or not to reopen the
If the
resolution.
time limit should be open.
Correct. Is that right?
I know that the comment, can I say something? The comment wants to discuss, or the city, you guys would like to discuss whether or not we even have another one. But what we're gonna have the hearing for is the,
To determine whether. or
just to
not have
determine if we're
another.
gonna open it or not. And that's where, yeah, everybody would come with this.
Redline,
Yes.
Newcastle,
Yes.
Geisler,
Yes.
Chad,
Yes.
Nichols,
Yes.
Rotabeck,
Yes.
Culpepper.
Yes. Do we want to pick a date? Or wait till others?
Oh, you guys can pick a date right now if you want.
How far out in the afternoon?
Yeah. how long does
I
it take?
usually need, well, the newspaper comes out with the, I could get it in the paper this week, like 10 to 14 days. So we usually go 2 weeks.
2 weeks. We'll put something the last week of September,
27.
as far as that.
I'll just have it at the October meeting. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just plenty of time,
Yeah,
right?
yep.
To get it posted.
I make a motion that we schedule a public hearing at on the 4th. What time makes sense for the public? We don't want to keep them here too late and we don't. 6?
We have finance and then police,
We-
6 and 6:30.
We can reschedule.
We can
those.
reschedule, I'm just saying, yeah.
Whether
6 o'clock,
On the fourth.
yes.
that's our regular council meeting date, correct?
Right.
And
So
then-
they only limits an hour before a council meeting, so.
Well, you don't have
5:30, I'll
to-
try to be here. You want to do 5:30?
Yeah.
fourth is on Thursday.
Well, you
Well,
gotta.
we
take
can
it-
just do it at the beginning of our council meeting and then whatever it is,
Oh,
then we do the rest of
yeah,
our
yeah.
meeting.
Yeah, that's what I would do.
So motion to open a public hearing at the beginning of the next council meeting. I mean, we'll make the motion, that's not a motion.
Yeah.
At 6.
Is the
Seven.
location,
So just start at 7.
is the location gonna be here?
Fire hall.
Because I think this will be too small. To be quite honest.
we did the fire hall when we got the
Well, we
big
might have to
meeting.
check with the fire chief.
I don't think there's any issue with that.
Looking at the schedule, we should be all set for the LSW Fire Hall on the fourth.
Okay,
So
we will.
can we start the council meeting at 6?
We sure can. You want to change it to 6?
I would agree.
I would make a motion to change that October 4th city council meeting to 6 o'clock. And to,
Second.
So the motion is all one or the two motions? And I was just
That
gonna
was just one motion.
schedule the public
hearing.
hearing for 6 PM at the October 4th regular city council meeting to start at 6 PM.
yep, and regular business to follow the public hearing.
And to have it at the fire hall.
Yeah, I got that noted too. Do you want a roll call? Fred Line,
Yes.
Newcastle,
Yes.
Geisler,
Yes.
Judd,
Yes.
Nichols.
Yes.
Rhoda
Yes.
Yes. Motion passed. Public hearing on the marijuana licensing, 6 o'clock, October 4th at the LSW Hall.
I'd like to make a motion that we return to regular order. Second that.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed by aye. All right, thank you, everyone.
Hey, might I say this? I'm not buying or selling here. I don't even use this stuff, but I want to do this right. Because there's a lot of eyes on it and there's a lot of liability on both sides. So let's get some input from the public and let's have an informed decision amongst council and let's get this thing right.
Thank you. All right, item number 4, moving on, I believe, is introduce ordinance regulations for regulated food trucks. Yeah, what do you do?
It's basically just an introduction. We've had some comments, concerns about food trucks. And it's just an opportunity for us to have something in place in case we have some issues with food trucks. We have them coming in for our events. It's not to make money. It's not to put like a lot of issues on them. It's just to kind of cover us and them that they have to have their health inspections and whatever it is. I mean, I don't think we're really gonna expect anything more. It's just kind of puts it in writing so everybody knows what the playing field is for the food truck.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt.
Support. Motion and support, discussion.
You know, there has been some noise about food trucks. Well, you know, they can just come in here and park and nobody's regulating them and, you know, they can, you know, they don't have to pay taxes. They're not brick and mortar. They can just come in, sell tacos and leave. Okay. So right now, we're doing nothing. So this is not regulating them for profit. This is not licensing them for profit. It's doing something. So that we can point to, if we have any complaints, we can point to the fact that the food trucks that are in our jurisdiction, they are licensed and they have all the health, you know, regulations, and they're doing it clean. Because if and when we get a complaint about them, we can't just shrug our shoulders and say, well, we don't know, we don't regulate them. They just pull in and park and sell tacos. Okay, so this is maybe baby steps, but it's steps.
So this would be a general law ordinance, so that would require us to hold a public hearing and create an ordinance. Right, Pete? We have to have a public hearing to adopt this ordinance.
It's a general law ordinance.
Yeah, it's not
It's not-
planning
not
commission.
zoning.
Correct.
Couldn't
I know,
tell you
it's
right
a-
offhand.
Right, okay, but I think the rule would be that we would have to schedule a public hearing on the language As long as we're already scheduling a public hearing, we can do it that same night
Okay.
if you want. Unless you guys, I was simply just introducing it, just have you read through it, see what you want to do, but whatever works.
I move that we just schedule it with the other one.
Okay.
Just make it double up.
Yeah, that's fine. You know, I'm not getting the phone calls, but the phone calls are starting to come in. So is it expedient that we do something about this?
We
Or-
probably won't have any more food really until
Yeah, snow
next
cones.
summer. So maybe some snow cones. But I mean, I don't think it's a big issue. I just wanted to make sure that everybody had time to like think about what we would want to do.
Right.
and-
Guidelines are good.
Let's get some public input then.
How would this affect like pancake breakfast or chicken
wouldn't.
dinners? Or
It
It
wouldn't.
does say
It
it
just-
will, it won't affect, I mean, it says in there, the stuff that it doesn't pertain to, like churches and stuff like that. But,
Festival.
yeah, festivals and certain things are.
I don't know if you guys remember when we used to have that clinic just roll up. And we, when our phone would just ring off the hook. And what are you guys gonna do about that? Well, I don't know.
I don't know, I took my cat to them, did a good job. I do a Perry because they didn't last there very long, back parking lot of the bar. They took care of my cat, she's healthy.
But we're just talking about food in particular,
Just food trucks.
yeah, not like any kind of service trucks that you're talking about, like.
Right.
What about the ambulance with the popsicles in it? Is that the same thing? Probably not. Guy with a,
They're a peddler.
oh,
They
peddler?
do
And
that,
there's
they,
plenty of
peddlers,
stuff in there. for
they
the-
already have to get a peddler's permit.
Oh, yeah. I didn't know there's a difference, I guess. Peddler.
So we're introducing public hearing.
So I got, so the motion was by Fredline. Second by Rotaback to,
Hold the public hearing. On the same.
I've been busy that night. I don't know.
That's better than having.
Don't plan on watching Monday Night Football.
I don't watch it anyway, so I'm safe.
You know, I think the public will be fairly passionate and their minds are already made up. We just need to hear it from them, follow the process and vote.
I agree.
So it's not going to be all night. It's not going to be pontificating. Everybody's already made up their mind.
Okay, let's do it again.
Fredline,
Yes.
Newcastle,
Yes.
Kiesler,
Yes.
Yes.
Nichols,
Yes.
Rotaback.
yes.
Culpepper.
Yes. Carried that public hearing on October 4th, June 6 o'clock time. Period. Item number 5 is traffic control orders.
Somebody else is in the hot seat.
Yeah.
Your turn.
As we had discussed the last couple months, the traffic problem really started last year with COVID. With a lot of parents driving their kids to the middle school. We also have a bunch of parents that of course drop their kids off at the ECEC. One of the major problems in the morning is traffic that is westbound on Grand River, then wants to turn left to go south on High Street so that they can either go to the ECEC or the middle school. And we also have traffic that's eastbound on Grand River. So we've been having a big traffic problem there in the mornings. So to help resolve that traffic issue, proposing for the first traffic ordinance is that we prohibit the left-hand turn eastbound Grand River at High Street from 7:30 a.m. to 8 a.m. only. So at that point, there's no left turn for traffic that wants to turn south on High Street. The second aspect of that for the second traffic control order is that on the south side of Grand River, going eastbound from Woodhull to High Street, there will be no parking at any time. That will eliminate 8 parking spots
that is in front of the ECEC. And having no parking there hopefully would prevent any accidents with kids or anything, because some parents will park there to drop their kids off to go to ECEC. To help with the traffic flow, we're saying no parking from the corner of Woodhull and Grand River to High Street. And again, this is all due to the increased traffic because they don't want their kids on the bus or whatever. And we want to curtail that traffic jam in the morning. The third traffic control order would be on Benson at Grand River, and that is for a no outlet. For some reason, traffic keeps turning south onto Benson, and there's nowhere to go because it's a dead end street.
Car wash down there.
Yeah. So checking the traffic control orders, for some reason, there hasn't been a traffic control order, but I'm pretty sure when I started here, there was a no outlet sign there. And somewhere in the last 6 years, that sign's disappeared. So my proposal to the city council is to break it up. We have 3 traffic control orders. One for the no left turn from 7:30 to 8. The second is the no parking signs. And the third is the no outlet sign on Benson Street.
I'll make a motion to approve all 3 of those,
I'll
whether it be as one or individually.
Altogether is
Yeah,
fine.
I would put it all
'Cause,
together.
I mean,
too.
at least you guys want to talk
Second.
about it if somebody wants to
We need
remove
it
it.
individually because each traffic control order
Okay.
is separate.
All right,
You want to second all 3 of them?
I second all 3 of them. I agree with them all,
Put them in a band.
especially the no turn. I got a 6th grader. I don't need anyone getting squished.
Well, that's,
And those parked cars, and then the kids come.
you
It's not
can't
like-
see.
No,
It's chaos.
You cannot see pulling in and out of there.
yeah.
You'll
those-
get,
those-
get caught when you don't have any kids and you parked at Woodbury Road, wait for everybody to turn, which takes 20 minutes.
Or my niece that, oh, I missed the bus, so I have to go get her. Sorry, you're late.
Whatever you want to do.
All 3 of them?
I mean, if you guys are, we'll just
I second
vote on all
times
3 of them.
Do the bundle.
Yeah.
No, I mean individually.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll just say,
Yeah.
so you can just first say the Benson Lane one, the no parking and the no left turn. Does everybody understand that what you're voting on if we do them individually like that?
So we'll vote first
I
on the
understand.
old no outlet sign on Vincent Lane.
All in favor?
Yeah, all in favor, signify by
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed by aye. The no parking in front of the school, ECEC.
Wait, can we, sorry, I'm sorry. Can I take that motion back and fix it up?
You can amend it.
Like amend it, thank you.
Fix it up.
Fix it up. What about in the summer? I mean, would that be,
It's just in school session, right?
he
I
was
mean,
saying
other than
all
the outlet.
together, he's
Well, I
saying
was saying
anytime.
altogether, I guess we'd have to figure out how we're gonna put it on the sign that.
I don't
says
want it,
school
yeah, that seems like a pain in the butt, but I'm just thinking that just.
Weekdays only, a certain time, and they got little signs that or little things. I think.
It's really not going to affect anybody in
There's gonna be a
summertime
parking
anyway.
lot right
That's
next
There won't be
Right.
anybody to,
Okay.
And
All
no
right.
one
I
parks
just
there.
leave
That's
it
closed
as-
out in session.
Can then delete my
Leave it
comment,
as it
and
is.
redo, start back where you were.
She's so big.
She rescinds the amendment
rescind
and
the
goes with
amendment,
the
yeah.
original motion.
Thank you, Brian.
No left turn.
No left turn is at
Don't be left.
South Shiawassee Grand River. There's
No,
no,
High
High
Street.
Street,
at High Street, I'm sorry.
northbound.
Don't be
And
left.
southbound. Don't say any directions and stuff, let the chief answer. All right, so we're gonna vote on each one
Yep,
individually.
so we've already voted on no outlet, or I mean, on,
Benson Lane,
yep, now we're voting on no left turn.
no left turn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed by aye. All right,
Now we're voting on no parking.
no parking in front of the school. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed by aye. Motion carried. All right, item number 6 is capital improvement plan.
Brought this to you guys last month. The capital improvement plan has been prepared. And everyone was supposed to review it and determine if they had any changes. If not, then we're looking at adopting it.
Yeah, finance met today and our recommendation is that we approve the capital improvement plan as presented. And that's step 1. And then step 2 would be to initiate the bonding process to pay for the capital improvement. So step 1 would be recommendation from finance that we approve the capital improvement plan as presented.
On that list, is it, so it does show our streets, right, what they're doing to it? Right?
Yeah, you got a
Correct.
map and everything. last
Yeah, I gotta
night.
dig it out, but is Shiawassee Street on that?
Yeah.
Okay, it's at the,
don't
I
know.
thought it
mean,
was on
you'll have
there.
to figure
I
out
wasn't, I couldn't
where.
remember what was,
It is on there.
they recommended stuff on that, and I couldn't remember what it was.
So we got a motion and a second discussion. So in the discussion, I will tell you that in the capital improvement plan, it's in the big book of streets and parking lots and sidewalks. There is no prioritization yet because there's no money.
Right.
First, we need to get it bonded. And then we as a council can sit down and we may even have input from some of our citizens about how we proceed in prioritizing the funds. So we've spent a lot of money on a plan. It's not approved yet. That's what we'd like to get accomplished tonight. And then after we approve the plan, we go out and get the money to implement, and then we prioritize where we spend the money according to the big fancy plan we got. So that's my discussion.
Any other discussion?
So that was a recommendation to approve. Is that a motion?
I
Yeah.
seconded that.
Then put it in
My
the
motion. Her second.
Yes, please.
Redline,
Yes.
Ducastle,
Yes.
Judd,
Yes.
Kiesler,
Yes.
Rotoback,
Yes.
Nichols.
Yes.
Yes. Carried. Capital improvement plan.
And then if we're still under items of business capital improvement plan, then we would make a motion that we pursue bonding to implement the capital improvement plan. And we would be empowering Paula to go ahead and pursue that bonding.
Support, if that's your motion.
That's the motion.
Discussion. Okay, no discussion?
No, roll call. Redline,
Yes.
Ducastle.
Yes.
Judd,
Yes.
Rotoback,
Yes.
Nichols.
Yes,
Kiesler,
Yes.
Yes.
I did too, she's gonna skip me.
I messed you up.
All right, item number 7 is approve payments of the bills.
So moved.
I second that. Keep the lights on.
Motion by Ducastle. Any discussion on paying the bills?
Nichols was second.
Yes.
Ready for roll call again?
Yes, ma'am.
Redline,
Yes.
Ducastle,
Yes.
Judd,
Yes.
Kiesler,
Yes.
Nichols,
Yes.
Rotoback,
Yes.
Culpepper.
Yes. All right. Payment of the bills, committee reports.
I'll do DPW, get this thing started.
Okay.
There was no items of business that came out of the DPW meeting. So it was basically what's going on. The paving project is underway and there are issues with Phelps Street. Working with C2AE to fix. sorry, Councilman Rodebeck, but the grant did not get approved by Consumers Energy for the boat launch that you wanted. It doesn't mean that we can't try again, but at this time period, I know you've worked really hard for this, but at this time period, the money's not there without the grant. So, sorry.
We have other opportunities.
Yeah.
We're not blowing the candle out yet.
And they're gonna be seeking bids for roof repairs after the storm we had in June. And movie in the park and music are now wrapped up for 2021. They're a thing of the past. And that's about it.
For this year.
Yes, for this year, sorry.
And thank you to Jody Frank.
If it's dark, can I talk on Lark? So Jody.
We were saving you for last.
Oh, all right. So Lark, we met this past week and we have a wonderful group of people and it's a lot of diversity. We have between business owners and LBCA, you know, everybody, and then just volunteers that are part of this to make this happen. I hope that all of you were able to attend at least one event down there. It was awesome. It brought a lot of people to our community. You know, so we were excited about that. We had a few little hiccups that we know we have to deal with, but we're on it. You know, a very small amount of people put on a huge celebration to, you know, bring some joy to our world, get us out, you know, after COVID. So we appreciate all of that from, you know, the city and all the people on Lark. But we're hopefully going to start meeting maybe quarterly. We're going to have a meeting next month and talk about grants and things that we know we're looking forward to so that we'll be prepared, you know, for Paula. So when that comes up, she can, you know, jump on it. One of the things we talked about is possibly an intern next summer to maybe help with Paula and some people that have been doing this a long time. And Wednesday nights are getting late. So if any of you want to jump in on a meeting in the park, we'd love to have you. But so that's where we're at. And again, it's a lot of people, you know, from diverse community here that has put together a wonderful celebration. So and brought business to our town, which is what we want with yard. So thank you.
Thank you.
Finance met, we've already covered our action under K.
LSW.
Go with police first.
Okay,
Don't mind.
that's fine.
Our action items have already been met. You guys have seen the reports and, you know, reading some of this and knowing what the chief's been through, I'd really like to thank him for his service and everything that he's done. Some of these things are pretty trying. It's a house fire that they participated in and our DPW also. Person was deceased inside. I mean, that couldn't be an easy thing to come across. It was a suicide that the guy was able to complete, and again, the chief had to respond to that. You know, I don't know how the rest of you feel, but I really wouldn't want to have to respond to something like that. And really appreciate the chief being able to do this, and like to show our support any way we can for him. Other than that, if there's any questions on the report that you have.
Well, the police department's a lot busier than it used to be.
The only other thing I want to add to is reference to the Shiawassee Human Oppression Team. We've run 2 operations now, and 9 people have been arrested on those felony charges of thinking that they're going to have sex with an underage female or male. The Sheriff's Department is the lead on that, and then the other agencies, Langsburg's included, Perry, we all provide an officer to assist with that operation. We want to try it quarterly and set up different things. And as you know from the report there, you never know who's going to want to participate in that. One is now a former Lansing police officer who was arrested. He was in possession of a gun at the time. And then the last individual to show up was a youth minister out of the Haslet area. So there's all kinds of people that actually are coming to the area thinking that they're meeting up with these juveniles. So
Doing some missionary work.
it does happen everywhere you go. And I just want to, shout out that the sheriff's department and everybody else put a lot of time into this, and hopefully we can keep them out of our community.
Hell, you're
The one-
not right.
Yeah, the one thing I did want to bring up is the homecoming parade is Friday night. So Grand River will be shut down at 4:40 PM until the parade is done. So that's typically maybe 20, 25 minutes at the most. And so that they'll have to find an alternative route other than going downtown. So keep that in mind if you're trying to go somewhere.
Okay. It's going southbound. Oh, okay. All right.
Planning commission.
LSW,
Oh,
LSW, we had 38 runs for July, 322 year to date. We had 10 ambulance, 111 year to date. Chief, did you talk about the dairy den?
Well, the Dairy Den did a fundraiser for the different avenues downtown. I was asked to participate. So for 30 minutes, I was waterboarded.
is that the busiest hour?
Yes.
So they get you to talk?
Yeah, no. So apparently I did raise the most money, but anyways, so they did.
I don't know if it's a good thing or bad thing.
Yeah, bring up, they did. She met her goal, actually exceeded her goal of how much money she wanted to make. I
Yeah.
think she brought in about $1,500.
That was fun.
So.
Wish I'd known you're in the dunk tank. Darn it.
Well,
Oh,
it
it was on
out
the
there.
list.
The other thing with LSW, and I know usually the minutes are kind of late here, but the ambulance has been recertified with the state. We just went through that process. So that's been approved. And also we did, I was able to hire 2 more paramedics, which is a good thing. So there are still a few holes in our coverage, but that's what I guess mutual aid is for.
And getting better. DDA, DDA had the same recommendation as the planning commission did to the council. Excuse me. They're also looking at smaller projects they can do and stuff at this time. Paid out the phase 4 programs that were accepted this year for all but one that's done. So that's where the DDA stands. Mr. Castler, did you guys do DPW?
We did that first.
Okay, you did that first, that's right.
Planning commission. I think that's left.
Planning
Planning and
the only one.
library.
And the library, which, yes.
You guys let me do the library?
You want
So
to?
mine's
Okay.
quick, so either
Oh,
way.
mine's quick too. So we had another story time at the amphitheater. So we were able to have 2 this year. We had planned another event where there was an author that was gonna come. Ended up that the date that we picked was homecoming, so he ended up deciding it wasn't a good choice. So we've got to circle back to them and see if they will pick another date and basically read the story and sign themselves the little book that they have. Besides that, there is, I don't know if you guys are aware, but the air conditioning unit in the apartment above the library was on quite a bit this year, and there's condensation and it was dripping onto the computer area in the library. And yeah, it just must be, it was cold or whatever, but anyway, they was gonna take care of that. That's pretty much it.
Okay. Thank you.
You know what I was kind of thinking, Cladsons would be a prime spot for the new library. Big, huge in there, if the price is right. It'd be awesome to have it there, be prime for what you got
I
going
was gonna
across the
say,
street.
Marcy for the tutoring center.
Yep.
Amen. That'd be.
That'd be
phenomenal.
awesome.
Yes, it would.
And that'd be like, boom,
Yep.
then they're not trying to buy a building that's all dilapidated next door.
Mhm.
I mean, I think it'd be awesome to have a library right there.
Ditto, ditto.
If the price is right, Clots might come down for a library in there. Be sweet, just saying.
Okay, so the planning commission committee,
Well, I'm sure
I'll
glad we
take
don't,
over.
I'm sure glad we don't share strategy in these meetings.
Real quick, we went over the site plan. There's been A1 storage isn't completely in compliance. So we discussed that, and then we discussed the food truck amendment or word ordinance. And then obviously the marijuana, and then language use for the alleys. That was really what we discussed. Oh, language amendment for the fencing. and outdoor lights. Nothing fancy.
Meeting. How about others?
How about a cat and coffee shop? Or something.
Me?
It's on you now.
You always want me to talk under others. I did hire someone in the office. We started with part-time for now, so we'll see how it works out. And maybe that would leave room for the intern this summer or whatever, or we're just gonna see how it works, but I'm pretty sure you may all know her. Her name is Kim Hamilton. She runs a daycare down here, married to Andy Hamilton, local Lakeford person, so she can walk to work, it's kind of.
Yeah.
So, and so far, she's working out great. Her personality is great for the phone in the window, and she's just a fun person, and
She's very fun.
yeah, and so far, you know, we're just getting her feet wet, so I don't have a whole lot more to say about it, but hopefully Cassie's already feeling a little relief, so. But yeah, so hopefully that works out for us, and we'll just see how it goes. We will start looking at grants for, there's other opportunities for the river property. I'm assuming y'all want me to keep looking at those.
Looks like the neighbors might want to purchase it to me.
We don't want to sell it to the neighbors.
Maybe I'll get some money for some sidewalks
I
and
think they
streets.
just want to discuss it. They just want to know what's going on.
So, well, I didn't get the letter.
I'm
so I
sure,
have
I'm
no
sure
idea what it said.
I'm sure the surveyors probably told them what was
When
the.
someone asked for a
Oh,
copy of
did
that
you get a-
letter, just
did
so
you
you
get a
know, I
letter?
don't have one.
Yeah,
Oh,
it was a very
No,
respectful.
It was very
well,
nice.
Yeah.
It was a nice letter.
And they didn't say nothing.
It was
about
They
polite.
didn't say, you want to buy
So
it.
just keep them in the know.
Said
It's
they
very
wanted to be
polite.
Which I feel like the
If it-
DPW has spoke to them and the DEQ did as well, so.
I think online though, Facebook, of course,
Yeah.
it stirs up and then they think, oh man, there's more to it.
But
than-
no one on
But there isn't
Facebook
anything
even knows what's
more to-
going on.
Yeah, there's not more to
So-
anything, so.
I guess if you want to believe what's on Facebook, you go ahead and keep reading it.
They
If
did-
if you really want to know what's going on, give us a call. We'll let you know.
Yeah,
Exactly.
they seemed worried that there might be some
Yeah.
commercial enterprise going on there.
Yeah, so,
it's-
right, but if people really want to know, they can give us a call, right?
Right.
I mean, I don't know that you want me to take everything that goes on here to Facebook,
No, no.
No.
so.
If they want to know what's going on, they need to show up to meetings, or they can get on Zoom.
So, I mean, I'm just
Or
saying
they can
that,
watch YouTube.
you know,
Yeah,
basically
they're
right
fine.
now, if you want me to continue to look at that, then I will. If
I'd
not,
love to have you continue looking at.
I
it.
say yes.
and then
Yeah, I
for
would-
the
yeah.
park, we're gonna look at,
I love the thought of that.
I think that the river launch is probably gonna require maybe a larger grant than Consumers Energy even had to offer in the first place. We kind of thought that the, 250,000 was a lot, but we started looking at it and it's really not a lot, so.
I mean, it's worth a try.
Yeah, so there are other options out there, but I think the Consumers Energy grants might be available for some of the things we need at the park. The DDA is also very interested in helping with some things at the amphitheater, so.
We have dunk tanks, we've got perfect prime person for it, so I raised some money
So
I'm
the way
sure
they-
we would all raise some money.
and some car washes and some.
What we got
That's
whatever
all
else.
in it.
The way they ended this letter is that they hopefully hear back from us. Do you feel like that, shouldn't they be listening? Because we discussed it about that stuff in these meetings.
When we start making
So-
plans to develop the property, I'd love to have them here to discuss and be a part of it if they would like.
I agree.
And that is exactly what I told them when we were out there doing the survey.
Okay.
At this point, we don't even have a plan yet, so it's, kind of hard to talk about it.
It's like gonna tell everybody you're gonna make chocolate chip cookies. As Soon as you say it, they all want to know when they're gonna be done.
Yeah, are they done?
And you say, well, I'm
Yeah, they
talking
done
next
yet?
week. Well,
Come on, Mike.
so that's the key.
Them
Yeah,
cookies going.
I'm baking more cookies. Maybe smoke some meat, but I'm not gonna bake no cookies.
How you keep that with-
Very careful. All right, if that's it,
Motion to adjourn.
we are adjourned.